and welcome back to Current Calamities, where I take a break from the past to look forward to the future with the games of the present. Now it's time to play the classic game of how do you pronounce this game title? Is it Live Alive or Alive Alive? Of course it's not Live Alive, because that's just stupid.
I know the Nintendo Direct voiceover says the latter, so I'm gonna follow his lead when calling this game Live Alive, a rather interesting JRPG rebuilt from the ground up in the beautiful HD 2D style Square Enix has been championing with the likes of Octopath Traveler and Triangle Strategy.
If this is the future of 2D gaming, I won't be against it. It adds another dimension.
I was surprised to find out this was a remake of a Super Famicom game that never left Japan, so most of us that saw this game in the Direct trailer never got a chance to play it in the first place.
I hadn't even heard of it until then. Kevin's slacking on his research overseas. But when I saw it for the first time, I just knew it was a game I had to check out, and that's what we're gonna do, so let's live some lives. I alternate.
The opening sequence to the menu was a good tease, showing brief snippets of gameplay to get you prepared for the adventures, and I guess a good spelling reminder if you needed it, in case you forgot, since it's been almost 30 years since 1994. The basic premise of the game is that there are 7 characters you can play as, each having their own distinct story set in an equally different time period. I'm gonna start with the cowboy because he has the most interesting look, and we both traveled in similar deserts.
I live here, so I feel his pain.
So we are put in the Wild West, filling in the role of a wanted man going by the name of the Sundown Kid. Like many RPGs, you're able to rename the character to play as yourself or someone else if you want, but I kept the canon name cause I like the pun.
Though in hindsight, I should have changed it to Sunset, cause your lights are gonna fade quickly when he shoots you.
On the road to nowhere, we run into a bounty hunter and get our first lick of the combat. It's turn-based, where you and those you face take turns at dealing damage to one another and move around to get your enemies in range for your attacks. Standard RPG stuff. We easily dispose of Mad Dog and move on to a town where trouble follows as we get into an altercation with an outlaw to whom we put in his place. But he threatens revenge by bringing in the Crazy Bunch, which are the typical gang of outlaws that own this small western town.
But I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself because you might be able to notice there's more story than there is combat, and that's because that's essentially what the game focuses more on.
There's more emphasis on the story than there is gameplay in my opinion. Usually they even themselves with random battles sprinkled in between main ones, but this isn't your traditional JRPG. Instead, putting more focus on the character's story and world building, and the new addition of almost every character having voices to their lines gives them a bit more personality to the words they say.
Your name on it, huh?
What's this?
Your mother's, maybe.
I don't think I should divulge too much of the plot just to keep things fresh to those that want to play it, but in short, Sundown and Mad Dog the Bounty Hunter get roped into defending this town from the Crazy Bunch by gathering supplies and laying down traps before sunrise. There's a correct way to take out all the gang members save for the head honcho, who we have to take out ourselves. But even when we go through that hell, Mad Dog is still overcome with greed and Sundown has to finish him off. And we ride into the sunset on the road again.
It wasn't terribly short as it might seem. It was a good 2 hours, which is decent movie length. And speaking of movies, I appreciated this reference.
Moving on, we're going to possibly my favorite chapter in the present day, where we meet one Masaru Takahara who's training to become the strongest fighter in the world, and he plans to do so by facing the strongest of opponents who are masters in certain disciplines, which also includes pro wrestling.
It wouldn't be the first time you know who is the embodiment of wrestling.
Okay, brother.
Oh, come on, that's literally Hulk Hogan now. It'd be neat if they got him to voice this guy. Before we knew him as a racist and righteous asshole. He probably tried to sue Square Enix over this. Thank God for parody law.
This chapter is all about combat, where the object is to not only defeat your opponent, but also learn some of their moves by taking them first. In case you're wondering, all of these chapters will culminate to a final chapter where some things from every chapter will carry on. So all I'm gonna say is it would be wise to learn as many moves as you can. But I'm convinced they're all wrestlers, cause they all can get some serious heat, especially this guy.
Well, if it isn't the mother...
Oh, we gotta bleep that to keep the teen rating.
It all comes down to fighting another aspiring fighter in Odio Bright, who turns out to be nothing more than a cold-blooded killer who murdered who we already took out to be the one and only best in the world, which sickens us as it would, so we're gonna bring justice to this sicko with our
Righteous fury.
Classic babyface saying dumb shit.
It'll take all that you've learned, or really a few specific moves, to defeat this sad excuse of a dominator, but the cycle continues as another challenger approaches.
Remind me to show Alex this sometime. He doesn't play RPGs, but he get a kick out of this.
I played the next 2 chapters on my own, starting with the distant future, which I very much enjoyed. You're now this circular robot who I actually named Sphere because it was better than Cube, let's be honest, and we're a part of this crew that's transporting a very special cargo back to Earth. This story is 90% plot and 10% gameplay, and I got a lot of screenshots as there were so many plot points and developments that kept me invested. I would describe this without giving away too much, like a combination of Alien and Metal Gear if it took place in space. By far the best chapter here. Then I went back in time to the near future where we're an orphan psychic trying to make our way in the city in turmoil and chaos by a biker gang known as the Crusaders. I can see this as an Earthbound-like story as there are some elements present like the psychic abilities that we're able to use in more combat scenarios, and we're able to read minds to further the plot, which itself has a lot of twists and turns that may remind you of Akira. But I think they're really pressing the T rating with all this swearing.
Wouldn't a swear like asshole be enough to push it to an M? Or is it like the PG-13 rule where you're allowed 1 F-bomb? How does the ESRB?
Last chapter I was able to play was Prehistory, which I didn't think I would like as much, but what it does was admittedly clever. You're the little green-haired caveman Pogo, and along with Gory, live the carefree life of sniffing out food and battling it for its meat. We soon befriend a lady who escaped another tribe, and we also so happen to fall in love with. You'll notice that there isn't much dialogue in this story, as this is a time before speech was a thing, so they communicate through expression and flatulence.
I think fart jokes are the worst thing you can make a kid sit through. I'm guilty of it too, but your humor is trash if that's all you can think of to entertain a child.
Her being here causes the other tribe to invade ours, and once we see them off, we're forced into exile, and it wasn't long until I got stuck at another encounter, which I may be underpowered to take on.
This game does have a forgiving autosave, but I'd recommend saving in different slots just on the off chance you need or want to go back farther, as I don't have the luxury of doing that, so guess I'll just have to tough it out in my spare time.
There's like so much more that I wish I could talk about, but I don't have too much time. So I hope this gave you a good idea of what you can expect. With varying plots and characters, you should expect to be mesmerized with every one of them. I know I have, and I'm only halfway through the game. Still have to get through the Twilight of Edo Japan, which looks like it'll be a fun stealth chapter. Time to embrace our inner gray fox, and Imperial China, where we have to pass on our knowledge of Kung Fu to our disciples before our time comes. You ever heard of the old show Kung Fu? I get those vibes from this chapter, so my dad might like it.
So with all that being said, what's my overall opinion?
I'm not one to play many RPGs in my young age, as I'll have more time for them when I get to the age of retirement, whenever that may be. But when the story intrigues me as much as this has, I'll give it a shot, and it was well worth it in this case. Live Alive is an awesome experience with an art style I love, and an anthology approach to the typical RPG formula that may make you think of the Twilight Zone, but it'll be its own thing once you reach the final chapters. Definitely worth your time, and it's also not terribly long, so you might knock it out within a week, and it would be a memorable one to say the least. I didn't think Square Enix would get me to think about buying their other HD 2D games, but hey, they still got it. Now you gotta skirt from the NFT bullshit. What do you think you're doing there? You're beginning to turn into what we all thought Konami would be. So what do you think? Do you agree with me, or have your own thoughts? Let me know by leaving a comment. If you like what you see, like the video with those thumbs up. If you think anyone else would like this vid, share it around. And if you want to see more of me, this show, and others, hit the subscribe button. I'm BrianTheBlue, thanks for watching. I'm going back to the past, and until next time, I'll see you in the future.